So being able to suspend a star, what's suspending a star? Well, let's go into the possibilities of the future, yes, or any life forms, maybe here or anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to cool it down very fast,
Mm-hmm.
right at the point of exploding,
Yeah.
in the hopes that as it begins to cool down, you're left with a fossil, a remnant. And then if you could imagine that with different types of stars.
Yeah.
So imagine in some way that you could find a way to make it go very, very cold and all of the liquids,
Mm-hmm.
molten liquids, turn into solids very fast
Yeah.
with no explosion, and it just sort of snaps out.
Mm.
And I'd have a lot of questions. Do you think things would still orbit because of its sheer mass?
Yeah.
Now, that's a very interesting sort of phenomenon. Now, imagine if it was a supernova. What about a neutrino star?
What does neutrino star do?
Neutrinos are the ones that collapse down at the last moment into a black hole. And then you've got supernova,
Mm-hmm.
big blues.
That blows.
Yeah. So to be able to suspend it in that animation,
Mm-hmm.
and assuming then that you could make a suit, whatever, robot that was nigh on indestructible to go down at those depths, or perhaps you'd chip off it.
Mm.
The art is to stop the explosion. There must be a way. Which would be a very unique thing. Now imagine if we could peel it apart, utilizing, I don't know, roll it closer to another star, who knows, whatever it may be, nuclear engine, whatever, and a way to intensify light and cut through it, break it in half to see all of those layers. And again, what would those layers look like? Multiple different gases, an onion, I think is what it would look like.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would resemble an onion, more like an onion rings. Spheroids all the way around, different levels. Yeah, that's what I think it would look like. Now that would be a fascinating telltale sign, right? Now imagine being able to do the same in reverse to a black hole, if it was even possible to do so. Different types, going to give you different ingredients when you cut them in half. Now, why is that important? It's not really, but even still, could you think of the resources that you would have? The understanding. And then right before the point of explosion, what's in it versus afterwards? And again, exploding star is very problematic. And especially when collecting resources, you'd probably want a big, and at least be able to break off the chunks. Ooh, this would be interesting, but I've got a theory that just before it explodes, I think it changes a lot of the ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there are more there and more abundance there before the explosion.
Yeah.
And then after the explosion, I think this creates a knock-on effect that alters them. Now, if there is a difference and there is more of an abundance, then all of those things could be missed. Perhaps it never leaves the star. Anyway, figuring it out in this way, that if it was an onion layer,
Mm-hmm.
then you could assume that black holes work onion layer.
Yeah.
And then this will give you a whole understanding of the star, right? To dissect it, literally. For being able to dissect it while it's hot. Well, it's different, but we can imagine that a solid object can become a liquid, and liquids can become gases, and so forth and so on. So you understand dynamics, currents, and different things like that. So you can only assume. And there again, if you were able to freeze it at that moment, what do those current ripples look like? If anything, in those right before those moments, as opposed to multiple stars. Again, if you were bigger in size, this would be a fascinating experiment, wouldn't it? Problematic because you're smaller. Doesn't mean that it's impossible. But even imagine doing anything like that. And again, if you can see this on the larger scale, I help you understand it on a smaller scale. Now, if the black hole works in reverse and a star works in reverse to a black hole, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
The middling is gas, assuming. So we can draw in some gas too, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is a fascinating thing. I got a question, right? Because to cut this open, and yes, it is onion layers. Right, that'll tell me something then. And perhaps it's in multiple layers. Like each time this pulls further, it creates more and more iron towards the core. Now, assuming that there is a lot of iron in the core, I'm just going to put iron. I think that's how you do it, not sure. Now, assuming there's iron in the core, then in the core of an onion-layered black hole, there should be hydrogen. And the fragments start off like the in-between stages, like layers on a rainbow, or order. The more iron spends more time in this arena before it breaks down into this arena, before it breaks down into this arena. But other things going into it are going to break down at different speeds, therefore have a natural sorting, almost like it passes through the next medium layer because it's filtering. It's the right ratio to do so, to then be broken down further until it reaches a point where it hits a buffer and then it begins to pull it apart. And I think it gets closer and closer to the core. So the core, we could assume, is then made out of hydrogen because it's reversing the iron. Now, why is this important? Well, this is interesting. I've been puzzling about how to keep a star alive, and I can't do it. That's the thing. I just cannot physically do it, no matter what, right? So in order to keep the star alive, I would need to utilize a black hole. And then by keeping the star alive, I can keep the black hole alive too. Maybe, in theory. Okay, so I have processed so many different ways, and multiple fucking stars have I destroyed in my imagination. And I do hope it is an imagination and there isn't some sort of alternate reality somewhere, because if it is, boy, it's been explosive there. Okay, so assuming that it's like this, then if I were to take the core out, and there again, I'd have to understand, is the iron increasing? Which I'm going to assume that it is. At what ratio? I can't take all of the iron out, but if I understand thermal, but I also understand thermal on the reverse spectrum, which is in the minus in the black hole, and depressurization, and I also understand pressurization and objects coming together, and I understand that the center of the star is making this much iron. I don't know, let's say it's hitting up for 75%, yes? And I can knock off all the leftover lolly, but I must always keep 25% in the core at any given time.
Yeah.
But it increases from perhaps hydrogen, and it sinks in and binds together the deeper it goes. Who knows? Who knows, right? But if I take hydrogen out of the black hole, put it close to the skin of the star, and remove the iron excess ratio but never go below 25%, and give the iron to the black hole at the star, then sure as shit, they should both be able to keep each other alive. Forever. If I can spoon drip this out at the right ratio, and I can make them at the right size, I should be able to make its twin. Well, that's a lot of assumptions, right? So we would have to look back at the onion layer. After all, the gas is in the separated part, yes?
Yeah.
So this one creates gas, but it then undoubtedly, the gas, when it's compressed past a certain amount, creates this, which then begins to unpick this back into this. Stars like to share. These ones are like, no, we'll keep that, thank you. I'm not saying that they don't explode, sure, or evaporate, or whoever says what. I'm pretty sure they're converting that back into hydrogen. They're defusing. This whole fucking system is all about yin and yang, give and take, yeah? But the right amount of give versus the right amount of take. And anyway, then I was assuming more with this, a futuristic engine, what would it be? Well, it'd be multiple of these. Or if I could tap into both of them, which would be an interesting thing. So if I understood that iron X amount and different particles would start making oxygen around this level, for example, wait. Yeah, this was the bit that I came to, right? Because I was going to try and leach it out to tap into it. But this just keeps this process running. Well, if you can generate a lot of energy off of that, then that's awesome. And likewise, if you could generate a lot of energy off of that. I would like a depressurized environment and dangle a massive pendulum to a clockwork mechanism near a black hole so it pulls the cord and then move it out. You said light didn't escape here. Well, the pendulum did, and then pressurize it and then allow that to run. That's just fancy way of building a rather large clock, but still, give the mind something to talk about, wouldn't it? So with this process then, if a star is creating, in the periodic table, if we follow it, I think you need carbon first before you get oxygen. Now that is an interesting process. So that means that the star is very good for plants, yes? So if you could tap out carbon, and that goes into the plants grow and perhaps return an X, Y, Z, and oxygen. Can you keep that in a self-fulfilling prophecy this way? In the gas exchange. And then I was overcomplicating it because I was like, wait, wouldn't we have to take the gas from here, utilize it in here, and spit it into here, go back a few layers? But wait, if these are onion layers and it's working in reverse to what a star does, this is interesting. This is why, highly recommend freezing a star if you can. It seems like the most bizarrest thing that would never, not in your understanding, never happen. But life forms were not told never. They were told, could you do that, do you reckon? And they were like, fucking hell, I guess, X amount of numbers. And then how many life forms working together to achieve something like that? Even the structures, but even still. So I was going to tap off of one, put it into here, go back to a certain degree, pop it into here, rotate. I just wondered if there was a self-fulfilling prophecy, but then when more I looked at it, if it went in reverse and then you have carbon that creates oxygen, yes? The same with a black hole then, oxygen would then convert back into carbon, would it not? So therefore you wouldn't need the bit in the middle. You would be the piece in the middle. And then it went further, right? It got vulgar, right? So I was like, so what's the one thing that humans are going to have a lot of? Well, it's going to be waste, right? Could you imagine just pissing in a black hole and it just converts it back into hydrogen, and then you utilize this hydrogen to just take a shit in it? Interesting, isn't it? To understand that it could take all of that and basically purify it. Because if it turns it back into a gas, and it is correctly true, then when the black hole gets to a certain size and stars are at a certain ratio, then And would you actually, if you could freeze stars, and just assuming that you could, which everything in humanity understanding the way it's going forward, this is highly possible. It's quite achievable. If you were in the beginning, during the gas phase of the cycle, the beginning of the cycle where there are egg-shaped stars, and you were to just freeze one just because you want to keep it, and cut it open and examine it, you would notice that it would probably have much of gas rings in it, as opposed to anything metallic yet. Not enough pressure, maybe, bit by bit. But the more they got, the more they churn, the more they... Could you imagine taking a star sample at every single interval, analyzing it at its big size, and then shrinking it right down to a bite-sized catalogue? That would be interesting, wouldn't it? But this is a star in the beginning, got it? This is a star halfway through. Okay, this is fucking interesting. This is, whoa. Yeah, that's the last page. Probably didn't want to look at that. Yeah. So trying to keep a star alive on its own, nope, runs into every single problem. I've tried many. Could I feed it something? Well, no, because then you'd run out of resources. How do you do this? It's in a cycle. Think cycle. And then an engine versus this. So maybe it's not possible to tap into it, or there's a slight lag, but I think that it would be like a cycle, that once you've added more to the mix, which then is generating more, this will then begin to break down, which should then allow you to tap into the process, which is kind of fascinating. And then these are living in a pulsating rhythmic fashion as well, which is fascinating because is there anything that constant? Everything seems to pulsate in awareness to reality, which is fascinating. And then, is reality pulsating? No, we are to the reality, and it seems more fixed than you, because your awareness ratio, even brain patterns, heart patterns, kidney function, all of it, it's all a very strange moment of life intensity, and then dips down. A moment of life, and Which is kind of a bit like seasons, really. It's like the summer is that in. Yeah, it's a bit like the universal cycle. Oh, I wonder what it's trying to tell us. I don't know. It's a pattern, and nonetheless. And some people have seen patterns in music, which I have heard about. And have you made sense? Now, what about words? Does it create words? Does it sound like talking? I mean, that would blow your fucking mind, wouldn't it? If you could put all of these into a sort of, what are you saying? Sort of Morse code, right? Maybe one or two on its own, nothing, but combined, there might be a message in all of that. Yeah, that would be a strange thing. But even still, there are stars pulsating, black holes pulsating. So, slightly different ratio, but even still. So, I wonder what it would be like, especially in the future if you could upgrade the brain. Now, fucking hell, you're already updating processors and RAM and all sorts. Every generation is upgrading this. So yeah, some people find this stuff interesting in a college, university, school or whatever. For me, that doesn't work for me. This way works for me. You know, we're not all one shoe fits all, and some people get great satisfaction and capability from that way. Beautiful. And I think that it opens a margin that you can walk in a different direction too. Just don't fear it, say it. But yeah, trying to keep a star constantly alive. It's almost like it's opposite, its sister twin in that way, is required. And then they end up both keeping each other alive, which then, off of that process, there's another way to achieve it. It's a bit more of a pain in the ass, but still, would be to pop one, live on the remnants, and then feed it into one of these, create from this, add into that to put it into nil at the same time as popping another one, which would be a bit like, you can do it with farming. If you think about enclosed structures and different things like that, which would be highly beneficial. Underwater, it doesn't really matter. Submarine, who cares, right? The idea is that there's a process in many different ways to do this. So if you had a harvest festival, I mean, it's a hell of an achievement. You have it once a year, yes? That is a hell of an achievement for a fucking environment that is a little bit, sometimes dry and a little bit too wet. So that's a hell of an achievement. Now try it twice. 2 harvest festivals in 1 year. Now 3. Now 4. And before you know it, you've already got this till it's like every day. Like, whether you'd want to do that or not, there's a different story entirely. But even still, that's a process that you've got. Now imagine it with stars and devouring while living off of one in the time frame to be able to keep everything running. You need enough of it to do it, right? So it becomes a bit more of a pain in the ass from one to the other. Try and cycle this, but you're not needing to fill a whole fucking universe. You need to keep yourselves going. That would become a particular type of engine. In his existence, and technically it keeps you existing and forging and playing around with stuff. Which again, more time is beautiful, right? More species, hopefully, begin to expand and more awareness. But again, in future, what if you could find a way to tap in to your awareness? And I mean, different grades of awareness, right? And are we really truly aware? That's the thing. And we're going to require some fuel for this. Either that or strip back on energy that you don't need for awareness. And then do you reckon that awareness is going to grow further? Because I mean, this stuff is quite small, really, isn't it? It's very tiny, insignificant, really. But on a grander scheme, this is small but massive. Depends on perspective and awareness, right? Depends on how you look at it. Monumental until you get there, and then that's more time to what? Well, everything wants to exist, don't you think? Everything wants to live forever, doesn't it? And in order to exist forever, you need to be remembered, don't you? Because reality doesn't hold a very good memory, does it? Not really. Not in the grand scheme of things, not really. Yeah, that's fascinating. Anyway, but still, well, wonderful gifts, and you can really grow more of what you are, but still, tapping into it, technically, if I can siphon off the right amount of iron before it reaches that and refuel the outer. One goes in, this one fuel. I mean, you can understand how the energy is neither one should technically die if left undisturbed. How long do you reckon that would burn for? Maybe it's all about the size. Could you imagine encasing that?
Mhm.
And the frickin' orbits. I mean, they sit still on here.
Yeah.
And that they tend to piss each other off. For every single scenario to try and keep a star alive for as long as possible. Is it possible to do so? And then I wonder with the more information. So if the core is significant to the star's progress,
Yeah.
if it went beyond what the periodic table did, then technically the progress should increase at the core.
Mhm.
So if it did indeed manage to slam the iron together, then assuming that you could get past all of that heat and be able to tap into it, I mean, it would be a fascinating thing. I think it's possible.
Yeah.
I think given enough time, you'll work it out.
Mhm.
Already playing around with gels and shit already, aren't you? I think that is true, isn't it?
Yeah.
These are nigh on indestructible gels.
Mhm.
And there again, pressure and different things like that. After all, it's a liquid. Got to find a way to submerge unscathed in it. I mean, again, fascinating. And being able to get there and then insert something in that allows that to leach out. Finding a way to get it out. And whatever that always adjusts to, then this always adjusts to. So I think you get growth in both. Maybe more time to break down the new substance. If these ever got out and got into the main universe, let's say, depending on what critical time, it could alter the cycle. But I think it would still peak and balance this particular cycle. It just means it will take a bit longer to go through the winter phase. And is there a way to shorten it? That would be another question.
Mhm.
While inside it, can you transform it faster? Sick and tired of this winter already, like pop. Ah, there we are. Sort of jump time. Yeah, fascinating. Yeah, I think I want to leave it there. I might run a few more, but keep it short and sweet. But yeah, definitely, you as a species can tap in off of this. Nature can tap in off of it.
Mhm.
If it gets really good, you could feed it an awful lot of stuff,
Yeah.
which could then convert it back into hydrogen, which would be wonderful, that then you could probably put into the star and wait until it goes into a few layers and then tap that out and regrow from it. And then it's purified. Everything stripped back to nil,
Mhm.
which is purification.
Yeah.
And then you never have to worry about waste ever again. In that aspect, now that seems too perfect, doesn't it to you? But utilizing both the forces in order to get that sort of harmony. And then what comes out of there again is then fed into nature. You can ingest, it leaves, off it goes. You don't get a build up. Shit me, keep going. Clones? Yeah, chuck it. All right. I don't miss that one. Then it starts pumping out the star. It won't be that quick, but still, more push, more this, more steady. So, yeah. But yeah, even still in that process, and then off comes the nutrients again. I think it will take time, sure, because nature's got to grow it. It's not going to be like miracle, but... And then it allows for expansion of this and contraction.
Mhm.
And then how much do you need? Depends on how much you want to tap into. So it's a bit like tapping a tree. And this is very layered as well. And after all, I think I trust those layers and those rings, annual growth rings. I think you're mimicking a star, aren't you? If I had to guess it, you definitely understand that thing pretty well. I mean, you lean towards it. And after all, you are dependent on it.
Mhm.
It helps you give birth, which is incubating.
Mhm.
It doesn't require a womb. It requires the environment. I mean, that's fucking hell, tailor-made. Can you imagine that? Just incubating your kids in the environment. Are they ready yet? No, not yet. I mean, that's a strange way to look at it, but that's how they do that. They rely on the air to move as well, which again is related on a star. Plus the cycles. When is it best to do this? So yeah, fascinating ring. So I think it's trying to map that,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore that particular growth pattern is a interesting. Does it age the tree? Well, has this ever fallen? Why does that make a difference? Well, because if it's been growing this way, it fell, and now it started growing this way. Then this one took hold, and it fell and also grew this way. I've missed out on, well, pretty much 3 timbered cores. And I'm pretty sure if I add that timber core that fell,
Mm-hmm.
plus this one that expanded, and if it fell, and now this one, I'm going to assume that this is all the same species of tree. And I'd have to add up a lot of annual growth rings, and I just don't think I got the time or the patience to sit there and do that. Do you? Oh, this one's rotten. Okay, piece of string. So I mean, that's an interesting sort of pattern there.
Mm.
Not all of them do this, of course, but still. And there are some variations, I understand that. But if you've spent your time as a branch and then, hey, it's time to be a tree. I mean, are you going to grow the same way, or are you going to probably tap into some information in there as it's growing and sort of tweak it? I think I would be tweaking it. Would you tweak it? If you had an opportunity, assuming that you could make a clone, would you tweak it? This attitude sucks, getting rid of that. How about this? I kind of like that. Maybe do that a little bit more, +2. Okay, next clone. Oh yeah, this is perfect. This is the person. Yes. Shy or confident, or probably somewhere in the middle. Yeah, going for a neutral one on that. That'd be fascinating, wouldn't it? Yeah, very good. So I'm going to leave this one here, but it does. If cloning was possible, there would be a rewrite in laws. Do you think so?
Yeah. Good.
1,000-year-old presence. What, knocked into a sort of teen avatar? Can you prove you're a clone? Have you got your papers for being a clone? No, I think you're underage. Go on. Yeah, but yeah, no, he's got his clone paper. There you are. Go on, off you go. Well-established clone. Go on. For the ones that are growing now, that's going to cause quite a wedge. Do you think so?
Yeah.
Assuming that was the adults that were cloning, that were looking like this particular age. And then, where's the moral dating going to be on that? Shit me, how do you license that? You got to ask these questions, right? Because these are problems now, and they're going to be even bigger than assuming that cloning, all the joys of being a tree in this particular, a bit of shrubbery over there, and you have no idea. Yeah, behavior, but still, oh my God, it's like you've got an old soul. You have no idea. Anyway, right, gotta leave it there. Yep. Yeah, 2 2 2. You're nice.